Robbie the Theologian. Unstoppable soldiers were ridiculously easy to kill. It cost McKean Industries a few more scientist meals to figure that simple fact out, but eventually the problem of the first infestation had been clearly put to rest. They started naturally, with sperm. Scientists at McKean Industries' Unstoppable Soldier Unit used Dr. Grady McKean's sperm. They loaded plastic capsules filled with sperm into the ink marker guns and shot the capsules at the unstoppable soldiers. Unstoppable soldiers do not appreciate being shot at with somebody's sperm. One unstoppable soldier snatched the unfortunate scientist with plastic capsule sperm pistol and picked him up by his head, while the other two males played wishbone with his legs. It was a gruesome spectacle. You can't really blame them for doing that, Robbie said. No, agreed. Can't blame them at all. Who wouldn't get ticked off if you shot at them with plastic capsules filled with Dr. Grady McKean's sperm? Even St. Casimirs would get mad at a guy over shit like that. Robbie Breeze was such a gifted theologian. The two female unstoppable soldiers remained, poised motionless in their guarding positions over the pulsating mountains of eggs. The scientist who lost his life in the failed sperm attack was named Henrik Fawkes. It was an unfortunate surname by Iowa standards. Henrik Fawkes was born in a place called Splugen, which is in Switzerland. I researched Henrik Fawkes. There were a lot of fucks in Splugen. Splugen was full of dumb fucks. The Swiss are famous for maintaining neutrality, except apparently when it comes to shooting at monstrous bugs with someone else's sperm. Dulce et decorum est. If McKean Industries ever reworked its motto following Infinita Frumenta, which basically means unstoppable corn, and its successor Infinita Milites, which means something like unstoppable soldiers, milites, or shit like that, they might have considered a slogan along the lines of post sperma sanguine cadentur. I believe from Latin the phrase might be translatable to something like this: after sperm, try blood. It rings nicely, but it is not nearly as melodious as a good old rhyming Iowa name. I'm glad it didn't work, Robbie decided. I would hate to have to fill up little bullets with my sperm just so we could get out and kill Hungry Jack. I said. We realized that in the same way the 1968 Unstoppable Soldiers cowered away from Dr. Grady McKean because it was his blood that created them, the Unstoppable Soldiers in Ealing today would only be stopped by Robbie Breeze. That was what the insane Dr. Grady McKean meant when he told us, "Pay attention, friends, for you may be able to effect a similar salvation if the conditions are favorable in your situation." It was the blood that did the trick. And Robbie Breeze was God to Ealing's newest crop of unstoppable soldiers. The scientists at McKean Industries, none of whom had ever received a Nobel Prize, and its accompanying $1 million and trip to Sweden for a threesome with Robbie Breeze and Chad Collins, nearly drained Dr. Grady McKean dry collecting blood from the twitching man. Once they did, their initial method of delivery was less sophisticated than the plastic capsules filled with sperm. One of the scientists went into the lab where the Unstoppable Soldiers had taken over, and he squirted them with Dr. Grady McKean's blood from a large plastic hypodermic. That particular scientist lost his right arm from the elbow down. That is a really dumb way to lose an arm, I pointed out. Those guys actually went to college and shit, Robbie said. I think a lot of colleges in the 60s offered degrees in taking LSD, Rob, I said. It is unfortunate you were not born with two heads, Robbie concluded. But a remarkable thing happened. Once the targeted, unstoppable soldier had come into contact with the blood of his god, the unstoppable soldier stopped and fell to pieces. The 6-foot-tall praying mantis with toothbrush-sparked arms simply broke apart, segment by segment. That was the first unstoppable soldier. It was the one that hatched out of Felix's Zerba. That exact moment, as Robbie Breeze and I sat watching Reel 5 of Eden Orientation Series, the disconnected pieces of Felix Zerba's unstoppable soldier body were floating in a brine of preservatives, sealed within a large glass case resembling aquariums, inside Jana McKeon's private office. So McKeon Industries was able to clean up after the first infestation of unstoppable soldiers in Ealing, Iowa during 1968. They let the eggs begin to hatch, unfortunate as it was. Film images captured the black creatures as they began bursting out from the gooey egg masses. The miniaturized Unstoppables were about as large as third graders as soon as they hatched, and the first ones immediately began feasting on their brothers and sisters. They were, after all, unstoppable soldiers. Actually, until they'd eaten and molten several times, the hatchlings were more like unstoppable Cub Scouts. Unstoppable Cub Scouts only want to do one thing, at least until they enter unstoppable puberty, which happens in about 4 hours. Within days, the sealed-off McKeon Industries lab facility was completely packed, from attic to cellar, with full-grown, hungry, unstoppable soldiers, all of which engaged in round-the-clock, unstoppable orgy of sex and cannibalism. The experiment had to be halted. More blood was drawn. Dr. Grady McKeon became frail and anemic, but finally all these unstoppable soldiers had been erased. It's not the end of the film, however. The worst was yet to come. Robbie Breeze and I did not know anything about it. Satan and the pastor. Robbie? I said. I just thought of something. I don't like the idea of draining my blood, Porcupine. Robbie said. Not that. I was thinking, what if Ingrid needs to shit? I said. Neither one of us had considered the fact that getting Ingrid up the ladder to the entry hatch was likely going to be far more difficult than getting her down. You might just have to put her inside the Nightingale. I shook my head. I could never do that to a genuine Nightingale, I said. The movie played on. At the exact moment as Robbie and I sat next to each other inside Eden Theater, Pastor Roland Duff and Stan, the Mexican man who owned and operated Satan's Pizza, cautiously made their way across Kimber Drive toward the red and blue flashing lights of the Iowa State Patrol car. It was not a good idea. Stan, whose real name was Sebastian Hernandez, walked one step in front of Pastor Roland Duff. The two men saw McKeon driving away from the Ealing Mall. Grasshopper Jungle was eerily quiet. The shops were all dark. This was normal for the most part because so much of the mall had shut down. But even the Ealing Coin Wash Laundrette was lightless. And that was unusual. Pastor Roland Duff assumed the power on the south side of Kimber Drive must have gone out. Lights were still on at Satan's Pizza. Roland Duff glanced nervously at Stan Hernandez, illuminated by the silent flickering lights from the patrol car. The alternating washes of blue and red made it seem like the men were standing on a dance floor at a discotheque. Pastor Roland Duff realized he had never actually looked at Stan Hernandez before. Stan Hernandez was very handsome. Too bad Stan Hernandez was Catholic, thought Roland Duff. Roland Duff, who had never had sex with anyone, was very aroused. Unfortunately for Pastor Roland Duff and Stan Hernandez, so was Travis Pope. Stan Hernandez and Pastor Roland Duff got right up alongside Denny Drayton's abandoned patrol vehicle. The driver's side door had been left fully open, and the vehicle's motor was idling. The two men saw the sideways Diet Coke bottle that leaked its viscous contacts of tobacco spit all over the cushioned upholstery of the driver's seat. Denny Drayton's emptied 6 Hour was on the ground next to the rear tire. Trooper Drayton's mostly headless and entirely hairless corpse lay in the parking lot in front of the car. The unstoppable soldier that had been Travis Pope flitted up to the roof of Denny Drayton's patrol car. Perched like an obscene living gargoyle atop the rack of the flashing colorful lights. Stan Hernandez looked up and said, "Holy shit!" Those were the last 2 words Pastor Roland Duff, who was mostly a virgin, ever heard in his life. Holy shit. Excrementum sanctum. Travis Pope killed Stan Hernandez and Pastor Roland Duff. Travis Pope also ate Pastor Roland Duff's entire aroused body. The headmaster from Curtis Crane Lutheran Academy was very tender and moist. Travis Pope made bug shit all over the Iowa State Patrol car. Then he scampered away, sniffing the air, trying to find where Eileen and the other bugs had gone. And at exactly that moment, Ollie Jungfrau opened the door to his Dodge Caravan minivan. He put his laptop in a plastic Walmart bag, into which he stuffed some clean clothes onto the passenger seat. Ollie Jungfrau was going to get the hell out of Ealing if this was the last thing he was ever going to do. It was. As Ollie Jungfrau made his way toward the east-west highway that connected Ealing to Waterloo in Dubuque, he noticed a figure running along the side of the road. Ollie Jungfrau imagined he was stuck inside a video game. He imagined he was in charge of driving a Dodge Caravan minivan, and the object of the game was to run down big fucking bugs. Stuck on the front end of a Dodge fucking Caravan, you big fucking alien bugs, Ollie Jungfrau said. Ollie Jungfrau's penis was hard. Ollie Jungfrau got erections whenever he killed aliens in video games. The thing Ollie Jungfrau saw running along the roadside was not a big fucking alien bug, however. The thing Ollie Jungfrau saw was Lewis, the cook from the Pancake House, whose real name was Awang Sing. Lewis was 5 foot 4 inches tall. Lewis had fucked Connie Breeze 3 times that day, using condoms that Connie Breeze found on the floor of Robbie's bedroom. Ollie Jungfrau nearly ran his friend over before he realized it was not a big fucking alien bug. And running next to Lois was another person Ollie Jungfrau recognized. It was the 8th grade English teacher from Curtis Crane Lutheran Academy. Her name was Edith Mitchell. Mrs. Edith Mitchell sometimes shopped at the Tipsy Cricket Liquors. However, Mrs. Edith Mitchell did not purchase condoms there. Mrs. Edith Mitchell smoked Marlboro menthol cigarettes and drank white wine from cardboard boxes. Ollie Jungfrau pulled his Dodge Caravan over the side of the road. "Hey, you two," Ollie said. "I think Ealing's being invaded by aliens or something. I'm not joking. You better get in." Awang Sing and Mrs. Edith Mitchell were frantic. They had seen the bugs too. Awang Sing slid the rear side door on Ollie Jungfrau's Dodge Caravan. "Thank God," Awang Sing said. "Thank God," Mrs. Edith Mitchell echoed. They got inside Ollie Jungfrau's minivan. Ollie accelerated as fast as a Dodge Caravan carrying 3 Iowans could go. He headed toward the bridge that led out of town, just on the other side of Amelia Jenks Bloomer Park. It was not a good idea. Nope.